Hey, what's going on, healthy gamers? This is Jack, and I'm here with ZiggyD once again for another Path of Exile podcast. And in this podcast, ZiggyD is going to be talking about most of the stuff because I have not been in the game at all. First world problems. Can't play the video game because I have a job, so it's terrible, terrible life. But so how you been, Ziggy?
I'm going pretty well, man. Been keeping pretty busy, but it's all very exciting and all very Path of Exile related. So,
Yeah.
pretty pumped, really.
It is exciting, and I'm just gonna spill your beans right now. You did a podcast just now with Crip and Ariel, and that's gonna blow you up huge. So you guys should check out that podcast as well. It's really good. I saw the first part, and it's some really good information. So the little plug for you, Ziggy.
Thanks, man. Pretty exciting it was.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Talk about the new patch. What about the new patch? I have no idea what the new patch is.
So the new patch was 0.10.1, and it was fairly sizable actually. The point ones, the ones that don't have letters affixed to the end of them, are usually reasonably sized ones. So we got a few new cosmetic changes. The biggest one was the change to the way that skill gems look. So previously, I'm sure you probably saw that skill gems all looked basically the same, and then support gems all looked the same. So to find a specific skill gem in your inventory, you had to mouse over each one and look at the names, and that made, once you had a fair few saved up, made finding specific skill gems pretty difficult. But now each one has a unique sort of art asset tied to it, and they look pretty cool. It's a bit confusing at first. Kind of looks a bit messy, but once you learn what each one looks at, and it makes it a lot easier to pick them out, and it looks cool too. I reckon they're pretty cool art assets. It's got for the sweep skill gem, it's got the red gem on the center, and it's got gold overlays for it that looks kind of like a sweeping motion. So the skill gems, the art for them makes sense. So that was a pretty cool addition, I thought.
Actually, yeah, I was on a little bit earlier tonight doing a little bit of recording for a video, and I opened up my stash. I was like, holy shit, what is that?
It is a big change.
Yeah, and it's cool. You're right. It's overwhelming at first, but it definitely makes them just a lot more variety and appealing, and it's easier to look at.
Yeah, I think they keep making incremental upgrades like that to the game, and that was a big sort of noticeable one. A lot of the ones they do are usually a bit less noticeable, but it just goes to show, in a couple of years' time, the game is going to look probably pretty amazing. As they just keep upgrading these things. Another thing I know that Chris really wants to have them work on is the different armor tiers. At the moment, you have the base armor type for each one, and that's what it looks like. But as you progress through the higher difficulties, they kind of look the same as the earlier difficulty versions of that armor. So the same thing happened in Diablo 2, where as you'd go back to leather armor, it would look the same, maybe just with a slightly different color tone or something like that. But what they want to do is, as they get more money to be able to produce these art assets, they want to make armor look cool and cool as you progress through the game. So that would be pretty cool.
You hear that, guys? If you support them, you're gonna get to have awesome shoulder pads.
That's it.
Yeah.
Buy up their transaction currencies.
Yeah, I just think it's funny in MMOs how progressively the shoulders get more and more ridiculous with every tier upgrade until
it's all about the shoulders.
Yeah, unmanageable.
Until you're wearing the Vile Wards in Diablo 3. That's
Right.
where it usually ends up.
Yep, everyone has the Vile Wards.
So on the cosmetic side of things as well, the other major change was the Duelist had its animations updated by quite a bit. So I had a bit of a play around and showed it off in a video. But basically, I was looking at the bow firing and using a dagger and things like that, and just sort of his stance and the way he moves and things like that look a bit more fluid, look a bit better, a bit less bulky, kind of it looked a bit amateurish before. So the class has just sort of gotten a bit cooler looking, which is kind of nice because the class is pretty lackluster overall, but it's going to be something they're updating probably in the next major patch, in terms of skills and the passive skill tree. So, make him look cool, and then they'll make him actually cool. So
That's cool. So that's what they're focusing on next is making the duelists better.
Yeah, the duelist specifically, but also melee in general. So a lot of one-handed melee skills and things like that. They need to really improve melee area of effect abilities. So they're going to be adding some of those, and they hinted at a lot of support gems as well for melee abilities. So be interesting to see what they come up with for that, because it is something that is sorely needed. Melee is quite underpowered in the game at the moment.
I
There's
could
my
see
dog
that.
barking in the background.
What kind of dog do you have?
Just a small silky terrier. He's
Oh,
got a good
okay.
bark on him though.
Yeah, he's terriers can
Piercing.
bark. But totally off topic. But yeah, you know what? I noticed that playing my Lightning Strike Templar, I've got him up to like 48, and I'm just getting bored to tears with him because I'm just, all you're doing is you're spamming Lightning Strike over and over. And
And Lightning Strike is basically the only good AoE ability for melee at the
right,
moment. Like you've got Sweep and Cleave, which are the other ones. They're small AoE though. They're not ranged at all, so you really have to be up in their face. And the way that the game works in terms of defensive things, the defensive side of things is very important. And being in melee range just means you're just going to get killed. So
right.
they kind of need that ranged ability sometimes. It's a common problem with RPGs, really.
That really is a good point because if you aren't getting hit, then you can stack your stats towards DPS and kill mobs faster. And but
Yeah,
a
that's
melee
it.
character can't do that. They have to be hit.
Yeah, and in terms of efficiency for an action RPG, you want to be farming quickly and not having to run up to each mob to kill them. Being able to kill them with a bow from a distance just makes you farming a lot faster, especially if you're going for experience. So it is something that needs to be improved over time, and it's a challenge. It's a design challenge that they have to work on. But it sounds like they have some pretty cool ideas, and I'm keen to see the new skill gems. Alongside with those skill gems, they said they're also releasing microtransaction skins for each of the new skills. So that'll be pretty interesting to see, and I think that's good marketing as well.
Hmm, that would be interesting. So the same skill, but it would just look different.
Yeah, basically like what they've done with some of them now, where you have like the fireball that instead looks like a dragon's skull that flies out. So cooler looking, because that's basically what all free to play is all about, is making the coolest looking character and to show off to your friends. And if people want to pay a little bit more for that and support the devs, that's what they can do. So that's pretty cool stuff.
Sure,
And I
I mean
recommend it.
that's like the purpose of life, right? To look as cool as you can. I mean, that's
Basically.
that's why I work out. Why else would I work out?
That's
I,
that's why I grind my characters.
yeah, absolutely. I just need everyone to see how cool I am. That's.
So in the patch, I guess the next change was probably balance wise was there was a significant nerf to stun. So basically, stun had been used a fair bit by other players, but really popularized pretty recently by Kripparrian, who made a stun build that focused really heavily on stacking reduced stun threshold. So basically, the way that works is stun is calculated based on the amount of damage you do compared to the enemy's life. So with the reduced stun threshold ability, you can essentially stack it up to the point where you only need to do 1 hit point of damage to be able to stun an enemy. And that means that this build that Kripparrian made and that even similar builds that other people were making were able to perma-stun bosses. So a little bit overpowered. Perma-stunning bosses meant that build was pretty much a must-have in every single party and things like that. And it was like the only way to, when something becomes that overpowered, that it can do that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's a bit too far. So what they've done to counteract that is put a 75% sort of. It's not a cap. It's like a soft cap. So after 75%, you get heavy diminishing returns. So it is possible to still stack really high stun, and to with a fast attack speed, you can still stun bosses most of the time and reduce a lot of incoming damage and have a really effective stun based build. But you're not going to be able to 100% chain stun bosses now. So it was probably a necessary change, really. I think.
Right. I mean that because perma stunning a boss makes the encounter completely trivial. You could go AFK and kill the boss if you could keep pressing.
Basically.
Yeah.
I saw some footage of it, and it was basically like against Val, the boss Val. It was just kind of like it was dancing on the spot because it was just doing those little head bobs up and down.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's kind of funny.
Called the ground jammer build because it made everyone dance.
You make a dubstep video to that.
Yeah, that would have been a pretty cool video actually.
I'm gonna take that idea right now. Do it.
Yeah, make a stun build, man. Do it. That'd be pretty funny to see. Triple X-rated dubstep in the background.
That's right, dubstepping Val.
So I guess the last major change in the patch then was the addition of 11 new map types and map progression extending to level 77. So basically players were getting to that point and adding additional maps based on Act 3. So a lot of them are using Act 3 tile sets and layouts And they also incorporate a lot of new bosses. And some of the maps that existed at the moment had been reworked to be a bit more interesting. So a lot of it are end game changes basically. So any players getting up in towards the end game have a lot more content to work through, and it makes me kind of wonder, as will they keep adding additional maps over time to really draw out that end game content as well, to really keep providing people with things to do. And I think that might be a route they take, like higher and higher level maps just for the really hardcore players that want to push through it.
Have you gone to in-game and done many of those maps yet?
I did a little bit of end-game maps in closed beta, but since I've been trying to level like a build of the week sort of thing, meant that I haven't been able to get to end-game maps. But with the build I'm doing this week, I've decided I will extend it out for another week and try and get into the maps. At least do some lower level maps to show that the build can be viable in endgame, because that's really the real test: late merciless difficulty and maps.
Sure, you're doing an ice evasion bow build this week, right?
Yeah, that's it. I suppose we can.
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Sure thing. So yeah, this week's concept was I gave people the choice between some different ice-based builds, and people voted not overwhelmingly, but in the majority for a ice shot pure evasion ranger. Now, pure evasion has a lot of stigma attached to it, in that most people are happy to say it just simply can't work. Like, it's impossible to make a viable pure evasion build because you just get one shot, and people like to say, it's completely random and things like that. But I spent a fair bit of time looking at it, and I've come up with some things that maybe I'm going to try that, maybe I can force pure evasion to work. So I guess the idea with it is to combine Ice Shot, which is basically, it's a powerful offensive ability, but it's also a great defensive ability because you're chilling and freezing enemies a lot of the time. So that reduces a lot of incoming damage and slows down the enemy attack rate. So with pure evasion, I've taken the Keystone passive Acrobatics, which removes all of your armor and energy shield, so you're relying 100% on evasion. So it is that pure hardcore evasion, and it does have the potential to get one shot. So yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, thinking about that, it seems like, because the way evasion works in Path of Exile is it's not completely random. They have a system where it's where basically, what is it, stable. It's not stabilize the word. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it equalizes it out, so it's not streaky. So you're not like miss, then hit 5 times because of a random number generator. So it seems like your build would work if you could stack your health pool up high enough so that you didn't get one shot along with evasion, right?
Yeah, it's sort of like a two-pronged assault on trying to make evasion work. It's stacking evasion high enough and using abilities to support evasion, and stacking enough health to be able to survive the first hit, basically. Because what it is if the first hit hits, or whatever is the first hit that hits, from that point onwards, if they only have a 10% chance of hitting you and they hit you once, that means for the next 9 hits they're not going to hit you. So
right.
That's kind of how it works. That's very it's kind of complicated, and I don't fully understand it, but that's basically how it works in practice.
Right, and the gist is that they can't. If they have a 10% chance to hit you, they can't hit you twice in a row because they happen to roll that 10%. They're going to miss you the next 9 times, and then they're going to hit you again.
Yeah, basically. So it can actually make it pretty predictable if you know what your evasion is and what your enemy's chance to hit is and things like that. You can build your play. You can change your play style around that. And I'm doing things like setting up my flasks in a way that they built to counteract that one hit that does get through. And I'm also using abilities like Enfeeble, which reduces enemies' chance to hit, so that reduces their chance to hit by it's around 20%. So that's a nice little bonus. But the other thing is the real kicker that I think will make this build, or not make it if it doesn't end up working out. But the unique part of this build will be this totem that I'm using. So I'm using a ranged attack support totem, which allows you to use a bow skill on a totem, and I've hooked that up with the split arrow, which puts out multiple projectiles. They're just sort of like physical damage arrows, just multiple of them, like shoots like 5. And I've hooked that up with the blind support gem. So blind has a small chance of blinding, but if you can put out a lot of hits quickly, like with chain and split arrow, then you might have a good chance of blinding most of the enemies that the totem attacks. So what blind does is it reduces enemies' chance to hit down to 25% effectiveness.
Oh wow!
So adding on top of that Enfeeble, reduces it down below 20%. And then, with my acrobatics giving 20% chance to dodge and then having a high evasion rating, hopefully enemies that are blinded and enfeebled basically will never hit me. Like it'll be a 1 in 100 or less than 1 in 100 sort of deal. So that's kind of what I'm trying to force evasion to work. It might just be an exercise in learning really in the end, and might be like completely niche, but it's an interesting thing to explore.
Either way, it'll be interesting. That totem is going to be spitting out what projectiles that blind.
Yeah, basically, I'd probably just call it a blind totem, I suppose. So that's basically what it's doing. It won't do too much damage or anything, but it'll blind enemies. Basically, is what I'm hoping. So the real question will be whether I can get it to attack fast enough and often enough that it can stack up those blind chance. Because you got like something like 12% chance to blind at the highest level. And if you can get that to apply often enough, then you can keep things permanently blind, but I'm not sure if that'll work out. So that'll be something that I have to test later on in the game. That's why I'm thinking about taking it to end game. So that's pretty interesting.
You know what? I think that would be interesting in PvP. I think that would have big potential in PvP.
I think a pure evasion has already been shown to work fairly well in PvP because PvP is very bursty. So if you can evade a bunch of attacks and then kill your enemy, then you're going to win out. But combining, enfeeble and blind if possible in PvP, maybe with a shield even on a melee ranger, could work pretty well. So yeah, that'd be interesting PvP build as well.
That's fascinating. I'm excited to see it. And I'm gonna plug a little thing I've been doing right now. I've been calling it the Battle of the Builds, and so I'm taking viewer submissions for Path of Exile builds, and then I'm gonna feature them on the channel. And then the guys who are featured, you're going to be put in to win a Turtle Beach X12 gaming headset. So look for those. So we're going to be having lots of cool builds. And, I don't foresee a lot of crazy builds. I just want to get a good variety of builds up there for people to see, how people are building their characters and just get different ideas.
That's a great idea, man. So you're going to have them like submit footage or something?
Sure, yeah. I'm going to take their gameplay footage, and then they're going to have a little write-up, and I'm going to put that, use that write-up, put it on the website, and then take from that write-up as I understand the build and talk about it, and put it up in like a video guide format.
That's a pretty cool idea, actually.
I got it.
I came to say that.
I got it from your build of the week idea. I took it and took a little spin on it.
Yeah, but that's like having other people submit their builds as well, which is really cool. I like that. Yeah, nice spin, man. Nice spin.
Yeah,
I'm keen to see
it. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I've got a few pretty good submissions already, so I'm this week I'll be working to put those out there.
I'm keen to see it. I'll tweet that out and that.
Fantastic. Oh, one thing I did see on the patch notes was you can no longer target friendly minions, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, that was an addition along with the Do Not Disturb mode, and both of those are fantastic additions to the game. Like being able to target your own minions was frustrating for summoners, and it was also frustrating for other people in your party. So a lot of people were saying like, whatever that when they were making a public party, they were saying summon a kick, and that's for two things, because of the lag minions can create sometimes for like people on slower computers, but also just because it's frustrating trying to target enemies with minions around. But it has made a big difference. I've played with a few summoners since then, and yeah, it's just so much better.
Sure, it is, and it got like, especially if you have two summoners, it just gets confusing. I had no idea what I was attacking with all those little skeletons around. But I think the larger point is that this goes to show you how responsive grinding gear games really is to their player base, because this has been an issue for maybe a month. People have been talking about it for maybe a month, and they've already fixed it.
Yeah, an even better example of that is the Do Not Disturb feature, because basically a couple streamers, namely Kriparian, was getting spammed constantly with chat. People would set up a bot to constantly spam them when they were trying to do races, so it would just PM them constant whispers. And in Path of Exile, there was no way to block people from whispering you, basically. So that's just something you sort of had to deal with as a content creator, as a streamer. But within 10 hours of that happening, Grinding Gear put out a patch that enabled a Do Not Disturb mode so that people can't whisper you. Amazing. Perfect.
Right. I mean,
that's responsive.
That's responsive. Let's not talk about that other game, which is totally not responsive and still doesn't have PvP out. Oh. So, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. We're gonna add a little bit of a motivational segment in here. So you are doing YouTube full time, correct?
That's right. Yeah, for a while now, I've been at this full time. Stepped away from my, my normal gainful employment to become a homeless bum living at home playing video games 24/7. But no, not really. I'd been YouTubing a little bit while working and doing some writing and things like that, and I started to see the potential where, if I put a lot of work into YouTube and tried to make, really kick-ass guides that people searched for and that they shared with their friends and, that actually provided value to people, then, I could potentially earn enough money just from the ad revenue on YouTube to pay my bills, basically. And, I'm not 100% there yet. Like, you sort of have to take a leap of faith on these things sometimes, but getting almost to the point where I can fully pay my bills and buy food. So it's pretty exciting stuff, and I'm like doing exactly what I love. So it's pretty amazing that we live in an age now where we can do this. We can potentially, like, you can be preparing and you can be a streamer, like full-time streamer, or you can do like myself and yourself even, and make videos and earn a little bit of money, enough to make a difference in your finances. Doing something, basically providing value to other people for free, and then earning from the value through like a third party, through an advertiser.
Sure, absolutely. And I guess what I wanted to highlight was, if people go and take a look at your channel, they can really see that you put in a lot of effort and hard work into what you're doing, and that's you had to take a leap of faith at first, but that is really starting to pay off now because I think you've gained what 1,500 subscribers this month alone.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal growth these last couple of months. Like, January is a very slow month in this sort of, in new media and pretty much anything online. But when I went back and looked at the actual numbers, I had phenomenal growth through January. So although it was a slow month and, in terms of earning money, but that growth is, pretty cool to see, pretty amazing. So yeah, just with Path of Exile and the content I've been putting out consistently and building up that subscriber base, yeah, it is, like as you said, it's really starting to pay off. And I don't know, I'm just like super excited every day to wake up and to do what I do.
Yeah, that's so key, and it's what I just completely lost my train of thought. Let me gather my thoughts again. But oh
It's
no,
good.
that's what I was gonna say. Is it you know a lot of us, we have ideas in our lives, and you think you always come up with these really cool ideas, but most of the time we don't take action on them. You think this is something cool I want to do, but then you don't do anything about it. But what you've done and what I did was we had our ideas and then we started taking action. And really, when you do that in the beginning, there's a point where I really think it's life. It's testing you. Life is testing you to see whether you're really serious about this, whether you're going to stick to it. And it is hard in the beginning, and there's not a lot of feedback that says you're doing the right thing. But
Yeah,
if you believe that this is something that is valuable to people, and you really put in disciplined, hard work into it, it almost always pays off. And I think that's what we're seeing with your channel now. And I'm getting close to the 10,000 subscriber mark, and it's been, there's been some valleys there where I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work, but uh, I think this is the thing with life where if you really have a vision you believe in, you have to take that leap of faith, like you said, and push through the difficult part. And in the end, it's always going to be something worthwhile.
for sure. Even if you only have a small success, trying these things and having a series of small successes in your life can lead to the big success that you want in the future. So.
Right, absolutely. And it's this concept of failing forward. Like when I first started getting into trying to make a living online, I probably bought 25 different domains and had a whole bunch of different random websites that totally failed until I landed on the healthy gamer concept. But through those processes, even though every time I had bought a new domain and I failed, I learned something. I learned how to do better SEO. I learned how to make a better website. I learned that, hey, this is a terrible niche. I need to find a better niche. And so that's that concept of, you're probably going to fail the first time you do something. You're going to fail the second time. You're probably going to fail the 10th time you do something. But each time you're doing it, you're learning, and therefore you're set up for success the next time. More higher chances of success the next time.
I couldn't help by while I was listening to you say that, draw the parallel between that and doing that in real life and making a successful build in Path of Exile. So if you've gone through that in Path of Exile, taken leaps of faith in your builds and made builds that you weren't sure could work, and you learn take something from each failed build that you make, then eventually you'll have the success in Path of Exile, and that's the exact same thing that'll happen in real life.
That's a perfect example for this podcast. That's brilliant.
You inspired that one.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, so that's, well, I feel like we're pretty good with this podcast, but so that's the message I want to leave everyone with, is that, take action. Don't be afraid to fail. Taking action only leads to a better outcome, even if you do fail. And so
Yep.
you shouldn't let the fear of failure stop you from doing what you believe in.
Ask that girl out. Ask her out. What's the worst thing that can happen?
That's so true. I mean, she says no, you didn't have a date before, you don't have a date after. What's the big deal?
Yep.
But it is still tough. That's still one of the things on my to-do list, to be able to just approach any woman anywhere and get her phone number, because that's maybe that could be a future video.
It is tough to take those leaps of faith, but
It is, but imagine the kind of confidence you could have if you could do that.
That's it.
Well, my brain is starting to be a little fried, but I think we had a really good conversation here, and really appreciate you coming on here, Ziggy.
Thanks for having me on again, man. It was great.
Yeah, you guys should definitely check out his channel. He's putting out a lot of awesome Path of Exile content, and he's just a cool dude with an awesome accent. So check him out.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and yeah, let's have you on again soon.
Alrighty, I'll see you later.
All right, take care, Ziggy. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already. Take a second to hit like and share via your social media, and then check out some of these other videos here. There's a transformation, a steak dinner, and doing 102 reps of squats with 225 pounds.